I was seated in the hallway, next to a silver trash bin and a half-melted ice bucket, while my sister danced under chandeliers made of light and lies. When the wedding planner whispered, "Sorry, Elise, there wasn't enough space inside," everyone laughed softly, as if I should have been grateful to have a chair at all. Through the glass, I watched my family toast to perfection. My mother adjusted her pearls, my father looked away, and my sister, still the golden child, smiled like she'd won a war no one remembered starting. I tightened my grip on the gift in my lap. It wasn't the wrapping paper that trembled. It was me. Every piece of me they'd spent years teaching to stay quiet, polite, invisible. And as the music swelled and my name was forgotten again, I finally realized this was the moment I stopped belonging to them. The flight back to Oregon felt heavier than it should have. Every mile I crossed from New York pressed against my chest, like I was dragging the weight of my own history. 6 years since the last family dinner. 6 years since I watched my mother's smile stretch only for my sister, while silence was all I was ever served. The ceremony was held at Harrington Vineyard, the land my grandfather once tilled with his bare hands. I used to run through these vines as a child, chasing light between the rows. Now, it was a luxury resort, crystal chandeliers, polished marble floors, a jazz trio playing to people who toasted to perfection. Everything looked beautiful, expensive, and completely unfamiliar. At the reception desk, the planner skimmed my card, her headset blinking blue. "Elise Harrington. Looks like you're on the overflow list, just outside by the wine coolers." I smiled faintly. "It's Elise," but she'd already turned away. I followed her gesture down the hallway, stopping at a folding table beside a silver trash bin and a humming ice chest. The sign read, "Reserved, Harrington Family Overflow." From there, I could see the ballroom, gold light, clinking glasses, Claire twirling in white. I could even hear her laughter, the kind that filled every room and left no space for anyone else. My mother passed by, fixing her pearls. My father avoided my eyes. I didn't feel anger, just that old, dull ache surfacing again, familiar as breath. I sat quietly, the chill of the floor seeping through my heels, and told myself I was fine. But deep down, I knew better. They hadn't forgotten me by accident. They never intended to remember. I stepped out of the hallway and into the night air, trying to breathe past the heaviness that had settled in my chest. Oregon had that damp sweetness I used to love, the scent of rain and ripe grapes. But tonight it felt sharp, almost metallic. The vineyard stretched below me, rows of vines trimmed to perfection, neat and soulless. Once, my grandfather tended them by hand. Now they looked like they'd been cut by a machine that didn't know how to care. At the edge of the courtyard, a brass plaque caught the light. Harrington Vineyard, a legacy of passion, curated by Claire and Noah Kavanaugh. The letters gleamed like new money. My name wasn't there. When I was 17, my grandfather told me this land would be mine someday. He said I loved it for the right reasons, not for profit, but for memory. After he died, my mother said she'd sold it to pay debts. I believed her, standing there now. I finally understood. She hadn't sold it. She'd just erased me from it. Footsteps crunched the gravel behind me. I turned. It was Noah. He froze when our eyes met, his expression softening in disbelief. "Elise, I didn't think you'd ever come back." "Neither did I," I said quietly. For a heartbeat, the world fell silent. The music from the ballroom sounded far away, faint as a dream we both once shared. Then, from across the patio, Claire's voice broke the spell, sweet, possessive, practiced. "Noah, darling, come take pictures." His smile faltered. He looked at me one last time before turning away, walking toward her. The distance between us felt heavier than the years that had passed. People say time heals everything. Maybe it does. But some wounds don't close. They just learn to bleed quietly. As I walked back toward the main path, the wind carried the smell of crushed grapes and burnt oak, and I realized what had been taken from me wasn't just land. It was every piece of memory they'd built their happiness on. Later that night, I slipped away from the crowd and found the door that led down to the old wine cellar. The air changed immediately, cool, dense, with the scent of oak barrels and something faintly bitter. Yellow lights glowed along the stone walls, catching dust like gold. I was halfway down the steps when I heard voices above me. They were unmistakable, my mother's and Claire's, drifting down through the vents, sharp against the silence. "Don't worry, Mom. I already moved Elise's scholarship funds into our joint account. No one's going to notice." "Good. We'll replace it after the wedding. It's just a loan." "Oh, please. She doesn't even need it. All that money just sitting there so she can feel generous." Laughter followed. The kind that doesn't echo, it stings. I stood still, the words sinking in. That scholarship fund came from years of teaching extra classes, skipping holidays, saving every spare dollar. I built it for students who couldn't afford tuition. And now it was paying for champagne and imported orchids. I wanted to climb the stairs, to shout, to demand an answer. But then Claire's voice lowered, a whisper dripping with triumph. "Noah still thinks she's perfect, doesn't he? But she's not. I won, Mom. I finally won." My pulse slammed in my throat. Suddenly, every puzzle piece from the past fit. The distance, the silence, the sudden engagement. Claire hadn't built her life on love. She'd built it on what she could take from mine. When I stepped out of the cellar, Noah was standing near the terrace, holding a glass of wine, looking lost. The light from the ballroom softened his face, the same face I used to trust. "Elise, I don't know what to say." I stopped beside him. "There's nothing left to say," I murmured, then walked past him. As I moved away, the cellar lights cast my shadow against the stone wall, still, solid, outlined between two massive barrels. For the first time, I didn't see absence in it. I saw proof that I was still here, even if they tried to erase me. By the time the reception moved outdoors for photos, I'd had enough of the smiling, champagne-soaked crowd. I slipped away toward the back garden, where the noise softened into wind and the faint clink of glasses. That's where I saw him, my father, standing alone with a paper cup of coffee. His shoulders narrow beneath his suit jacket, his eyes tired in a way I hadn't noticed before. When he saw me, he didn't smile. He just lifted his hand slightly, a gesture both hesitant and pleading. "Elise, come here. I have something you need to see." He reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a faded yellow envelope, edges worn from being opened too many times. Inside was a contract, folded neatly in thirds. My breath caught as I recognized the title, Property Transfer Agreement, Harrington Estate. At the bottom was my name and a signature that wasn't mine. "Your mother brought this to me when you were 20, he said, voice trembling. "Told me you'd agreed to sell your share of the land to pay tuition." I signed off, but I knew that handwriting wasn't yours. The ink danced where the pen had trembled. Too heavy, too deliberate. My stomach dropped. Every doubt I'd buried for years came roaring back, solid, undeniable. "Grandfather wanted you to protect that land," he whispered. "But your mother, she wanted to protect the family's image. Don't let them decide what legacy means for you." From across the lawn came the muffled sound of a toast. Claire's name floated in the air like smoke. I gripped the envelope tighter, feeling its corners press into my palm like edges of an old wound. It wasn't paper I was holding. It was everything they'd stolen. On my way back toward the main building, I stopped under the gold sign that read Harrington Vineyard, Claire and Noah Kavanaugh. The sun was dipping low, turning the letters into molten metal. That's when I saw Noah standing by the terrace, his phone in his hand, brows drawn together. "Did you know about this?" he asked quietly, showing me the screen. An email flashed back at me. My name at the bottom, my photo attached. "Thank you for your generous donation. I'm thrilled to be partnering with the Noah and Claire Foundation." I felt something cold crawl up my spine. "I never wrote that." I said, "I figured," he muttered, looking away. He slipped his phone into his pocket, but I caught the flicker of shame in his eyes. A man realizing he'd been standing on lies built for him. That night, I sat in my car with the dome light on, the envelope resting on my knees. I took out a pen and wrote along its edge, my hand steady, my heart not. If truth stays buried long enough, it learns to dig, like roots pushing through stone. For the first time in years, I didn't feel afraid, only awake. When the laughter inside turned drunk and sloppy, I wandered back to the wine cellar for silence. The stone steps creaked beneath my heels, and the air grew colder with every step. The smell of oak barrels, dust, and time filled my lungs. A voice came from the far end of the room. Cal, the old manager, turned from a shelf of bottles, surprise lighting his face. My God! Miss Harrington! I still remember you preferred the 2008 Pinot. I smiled faintly. Guess I'm not remembered much these days. He shook his head. That's not true. But I do have something you should see. He unlocked a steel cabinet, pulling out a small hard drive wrapped in plastic. Inside, he explained, were archived documents from before the renovation. He plugged it into his office computer, and the screen came alive with old files, names, and dates. One folder caught my eye, letter to Elise. My pulse quickened as I opened it. The first line froze me in place. Elise, I don't understand why you disappeared. Your mother said you accepted another proposal, but I still believe you'll read this someday. If you still have the notebook I gave you, know that I never stopped loving you. The timestamp, June 17th, 10 years ago. I stared until the words blurred. My mother's voice echoed in my memory, her warning that Noah was using me, that he wanted the family name, not me. I'd believed her. I'd packed my bags and left Oregon with silence as my armor. Now, sitting there in that cold room, I realized she hadn't protected me. She'd rewritten my story. I scrolled through the old emails, one after another, each confirming what I already knew. She'd intercepted his messages, deleted them, then told us both lies we were too young and too trusting to question. My hand hovered over my phone. I found her contact, stared at the word Mom. My thumb trembled over the call button, then stopped. I deleted the message instead. Sometimes, silence is the only language truth speaks. When I stepped out, the night sky had turned silver with thin clouds. The vineyard stretched under the moon, still and endless. I stood there for a long time, the wind tugging at my hair, the taste of dust and wine on my lips. No tears this time, no rage, just a calm resolve settling deep inside me. If they took my story, I would write it again. This time, with truth as my ink. The ballroom shimmered in gold that night. Crystal light spilled across tables lined with roses and glasses of wine that looked too red, too full. I stayed near the edge of the crowd, watching a celebration that had nothing to do with me. The air hummed with flattery and false laughter, every word rehearsed, every smile designed to look effortless. The MC called for the mother of the bride, and my mother rose like she was walking onto a stage. Her voice carried the authority of a woman who'd never been contradicted. Claire is the light of this family. She's made us so proud. Applause thundered through the room. No one even looked my way. I sipped my wine, feeling it burn down, heavy and dry, until it settled somewhere between my ribs. Then my phone buzzed, a number I didn't recognize. Check your old email. They didn't just take your land. My heart stuttered. I opened the dusty inbox, and there it was. Dozens of messages written in my name, thanking donors for contributing to the Claire and Noah Foundation. My signature, my photo, my words. But they weren't mine. A fake email address. A fake version of me. Generous, complicit, erased. Across the ballroom, Claire was giving her speech. I want to thank my sister for teaching me how to give. The applause came again, louder, polished, obedient. Our eyes met across the room. Hers sparkled like a blade in candlelight, curved with satisfaction. I smiled, not out of grace, but out of understanding. Some lessons only betrayal can teach, I whispered under my breath. Justice doesn't have to scream. When the applause faded, my father found me near the terrace, holding an envelope I'd left in the car. He handed it to me silently. On the back, faint ink bled through the paper. My grandfather's handwriting. "When they take your light, don't fight for it. Bring it home." I ran my thumb along the words until they blurred. I didn't feel anger anymore, just precision. For years, they'd told my story for me. Now I would let the truth tell it instead. The night had softened by the time Claire and Noah took their first dance. They moved like perfection had been choreographed into them. Each step measured, every smile captured by someone's phone. The audience swayed, the room glowing with pride. I slipped through the crowd to the gift table. From my purse, I pulled out a small black velvet box. The ribbon gleamed dark red beneath the chandeliers. Inside were 4 things: the original deed signed by my grandfather, the forged contract bearing my stolen name, printed copies of the fake emails, and a short note written in my hand. To Claire and Noah, for everything that was stolen, may the truth return. I tied the ribbon, set the box dead center beneath the lights, and turned away. Outside, the vineyard stretched under silver moonlight. The wind smelled of oak and quiet. From a distance, the music carried softly, a perfect song for imperfect people. I sat in my car, the interior light reflecting my face in the mirror, calm, certain, whole. No one needed to see me go. I didn't need the applause or the aftermath. Truth, once unwrapped, knows exactly where to find its audience. The violin played softly as Claire and Noah glided across the floor, all glitter and grace beneath the chandeliers. Cameras flashed, the live stream climbing in viewers. My mother sat glowing in the front row, her pearls shining brighter than her conscience. When the MC announced gift time, Claire reached for the black velvet box in the center of the table. Her tone was sugar dipped in venom. "This one's from my sister. Maybe she's finally learning how to love." Laughter faded as she untied the ribbon. The paper fell. Silence followed. Inside lay contracts, emails, a photo of my grandfather and me. Noah read first, voice breaking. "Claire, this is the original deed. Elise owns the vineyard. Yours is a fake," gasps. My mother rose, stammering. "It's a mistake." But Victoria, Noah's mother, stepped forward, steady, unflinching. "No, I verified everything." Elise told the truth. The cameras caught every face, every breath. Claire shook her head, panic cracking her mask. "You're all against me." Noah removed his ring, placing it on the table. "No, Claire, you did this to yourself." The sound of metal on wood echoed. Inside, everything shattered. Outside, I listened to the wind. Truth doesn't need applause. It only needs to be seen. Morning came with headlines that spread faster than the sunrise. Oregon bride exposed for fraud during livestream. Every news site carried it. The video had millions of views, strangers dissecting every frame of my family's undoing. Claire vanished from social media. Noah became the face of sympathy. My mother, though, called 5 times before noon. Her 6th message blinked across my screen. "Elise, what have you done? What will happen to this family?" I typed slowly, my hands steady. "I didn't destroy us. I just stopped hiding the truth." The road led me to the Willamette River, where my grandfather once took me to pick grapes by the water. Morning light danced across the surface, clean and new. The folder sat on the seat beside me, the official papers confirming my ownership of Harrington Vineyard. I called my lawyer. "Transfer 40% of the profits into a scholarship fund, architecture and agricultural students only, the Harrington Legacy Fund. Let it grow where greed once lived." By noon, Noah arrived. His face carried regret, but also something honest. "I was wrong, Elise. I believed in the image, not the truth." I told him softly. "We all do, until the light finally hurts enough to open our eyes." Later, a letter arrived from Victoria Kavanaugh, written in graceful cursive and sealed with her family crest. Inside was a check for $100,000. "For your fund, let your kind of justice reach farther than your pain." I folded it carefully and placed it in the envelope with my grandfather's handwriting. For the first time, silence didn't feel like surrender. It felt like peace finally speaking for itself. A year later, the vineyard shimmered under Oregon's sun, vines heavy with new grapes. The sign now read the Harrington Legacy Center. Students followed me through the rows, sketching and laughing, their voices soft against the wind. One asked if I ever regretted leaving that night. I smiled. If I hadn't, I'd still be sitting in the hallway of someone else's life. The breeze carried the scent of earth and ripened fruit. I touched a young vine, feeling its pulse beneath my fingers. They once placed me beside a trash bin. Now I stand in the sun, and the sweetest wine is peace, finally mine.